So I just got out of seeing MaXXXine, the third part in this Ty West, Mia Goth trilogy here. I don't know if this is the climax. It kind of feels like that, but I know that they have both went on record and said that they are up to do more films. So hopefully this is successful and we'll get more movies in this universe. But they've been knocking these out of the park ever since they started this. More movies are kind of taking this trend to where they're doing movies right after the other and releasing them like months apart. Like X came out and then Pearl came out the same year, and now MaXXXine was probably the largest gap between a release of this trilogy. But this is one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and for the reason being is that X was such a good movie, and Pearl was just awesome. Like, I love Pearl. Like, I could watch that movie right now. Like, I just love everything that Pearl had. Mia Goth, she killed it as Pearl. And, she's kind of playing two parts, in this entire trilogy. She plays Maxine Meeks, and she plays also Pearl, and the older version of Pearl that we saw in X. So, like you got to kind of, like, separate her what do you say, like her style of acting between the characters, because you don't want them to feel like too much the same, even though she's playing she's playing in both parts, but like just coming off of that high from Pearl, I just loved everything that movie just like brought. It was like this character study, and gave you that backstory of her from what we saw in X, and X was so cool. It had a good soundtrack. It had like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe. Pearl kind of had like a Psycho meets Wizard of Oz type of vibe, but it was like very it was like I said, it was like a character study. Mia Goth really got to shine in that role, and I loved it. And so I had high expectations for MaXXXine, and with this being set in the '80s, and we're following MaXXXine at the end of X. Of her going to Hollywood and being an adult film actress, and she's trying to break into Hollywood, into like big movies, into the horror genre and stuff like that. And then also everything that's going on the side, like with Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker at that time is going on. So it's like this is kind of like playing on those tropes. Like, is it the Night Stalker actually going out and killing people, or is this like a copycat, or is this just somebody that's trying to get at MaXXXine? And apparently, like they know her past, they know her secrets of what she did in X, and they do some flashbacks to it and everything to kind of remind you. And I think that was good, because I think if you go in this blind, you might be a little lost of like what's going on, or you could be confused between the Pearl character or the MaXXXine character. And the way that they play this out, I mean, I'm talking about like Ty West and Mia Goth are a powerhouse. They have like 3 wins in a row here. So I hope that this does veer off into other films. But like the cinematography was great, the editing was great, the soundtrack was great. You felt like you were in the '80s. Even like the style of like the kills, like it was very 80s vibe, like and this movie was kind of marketed a long time ago like this is a whodunit, and there was like a lot of pressure on it, because like people were even saying like Ty West was even out there saying that this is the best one out of the trilogy, and hearing that it's a whodunit, it kind of got my expectations kind of higher, because I love a good whodunit mystery thriller, like Scream or something like that, like that's my comfort food. And so I got really excited for this. I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm down. But the way this movie even goes, like even on like the sets of Hollywood, we even touch on like the Bates Motel, like we see all that in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. And then you add like more bigger actors, like Kevin Bacon's in here as like the private eye. He's he calls himself the Dick, and he plays that part to a dick. Okay. And I didn't expect Kevin Bacon to have such a big part that he did in this, but he really kind of was the one that shined throughout this, even though you love to hate him in this movie. Mia Goth, she does fantastic. She is a fantastic actress. But here, I have to say that I left a little bit underwhelmed, just a little bit. I'm not saying that it's a bad movie. I just don't feel like I left on a high like I did X or even Pearl. And I'm not saying that this is a bad movie, because it's definitely a good movie. It's just where this movie goes and the pacing of the journey that we're going on with Mia Goth trying to unravel, like, who knows her secret, who knows who she is, why are they trying to kill her, and she's always trying to like be like one step ahead of the killer, and trying to figure things out. And we're trying to figure out things alongside with her. And then you got Michelle Monaghan being a detective. She's a great presence, among other characters that are just in here, and you're just kind of like, is this a whodunit, or like there was a part in this movie like early on that I was like, are they going to go in that direction? And then I was like, no, that's too simple. That doesn't really feel like a whodunit. And I kind of like threw that away. So I was like, really, those movies where you're like really trying to figure it out, and you're just like, okay, who could it be? Who could it be? And then when it gets to the climax, it's like, really? That's what we're doing here? Like the climax is where you're supposed to land it, and I feel like that's where this movie was lacking. The climax is cool, like the set pieces and everything is okay, but the motive and everything that goes along with it, it almost just kind of drops into B-movie territory, and I'm like, that works, I guess, for this film because it is like a trope on 80s horror and stuff like that. But it doesn't really feel like horror. It feels like light horror compared to the last two. Yeah, there are dark moments, but I don't feel like it got as dark as it should have been or could have been, and there's just certain things about it that I was just kind of like, they're doing too much or they're doing too little. Does that make sense? Like watch the movie and let me know what you think, because I don't want to give away any spoilers here. I do like the movie. I want to watch it again. It seems like my audience liked it. There's a lot of the place was packed. I think this movie comes out tomorrow, which is the 4th of July, or it comes out Friday, but I got a chance to see it tonight. And a lot of people were enjoying it. I just don't feel like the pacing was as good as Pearl or X. Like there was moments in those movies that you got that hit of dopamine that was like, oh, that was cool, or oh shit, I didn't really, there was like one, maybe two times that I felt that, but there was a lot of like just following along. And Mia Goth, even though as much as a great actress as she is, it was just kind of just following her more than seeing a lot of expression and a lot of emotion and stuff like that. And there are moments that we do get that from her, but not to the extent that we got in Pearl, or, I guess she's more aligned as MaXXXine Minx from X. I guess, thinking back to that movie, there was moments that she had it, but she wasn't as extreme as Pearl. So that brings me to my next point, is that if they do decide, if this movie is successful, and I hope it is, because I want to see more in this universe, I hope they do a sequel to Pearl, like when that movie left off, and her husband comes home from the war, and the way it just kind of leaves off. I want to know what happens between the ending of Pearl and the beginning of X. Like, what else did Pearl do in her life? I think I'm more intrigued by Pearl's backstory and character than I am MaXXXine Minx. Even though that this is good, it does just like ooze with good 80s music and everything. I love the soundtrack. You got Halsey in here as well. Kevin Bacon, like I said, kills it. You got the Bates Motel from Psycho. That was a good addition. They don't get too meta with stuff, kind of like on like a Scream level, or like Scream 3 whenever Scream was in Hollywood or anything like that. But they do enough to be in like, oh yeah, that's a cool little addition. I just wish the whodunit element was better, and I wish that there was more to chew on as far as like the motivation for the killer and where it all goes in the third act. I feel like that's where it kind of falls flat, because like I wasn't ready for it to end. I wanted more. I do like how the final shot is. I do enjoy that. So I do think that there's more to live in this universe. I hope we get to see more. I just hope we kind of do this whole back and forth thing between Pearl and MaXXXine. Maybe if we could just keep doing that, back and forth until we get to like some, I don't know, further conclusion. I don't know where you could go with it, but Ty West is awesome. Mia Goth's awesome. Go see this movie. Support it. It is a good movie. left me a little